The sun blazed mercilessly over the sprawling estate of Harrison Reed, casting sharp shadows across the pristine grounds where not a blade of grass dared grow out of place. From the wraparound porch of his mansion, Harrison surveyed his kingdom with the cold, calculating eyes of a man who had never known failure. At 52, his hair had grayed at the temples, lending him the distinguished look of old money, though everyone in the county knew his fortune was self-made, a fact he never tired of mentioning. "Mr. Reed," called his assistant Marcus, hurrying across the lawn with a tablet in hand. "The final preparations for tomorrow's event are complete. We've received confirmations from all major news outlets." Harrison nodded without turning. His attention remained fixed on the distant stables where his latest acquisition, a magnificent black stallion named Tempest, was being housed. The horse had cost him $3 million, imported from Spain with a bloodline as pure as they came, and a reputation that preceded it, untamable. "Good," Harrison finally replied. "Make sure the press understands the stakes. $1 million to anyone who can ride Tempest for 8 seconds. My entire fortune if they can fully tame him." A smile played at the corners of his mouth. "And make sure they emphasize that I'll be donating the unclaimed money to charity when no one succeeds." Marcus hesitated. "Sir, about that, your legal team strongly advises against—" "My legal team works for me, not the other way around," Harrison interrupted, his voice sharp as steel. "The contract is ironclad. No one will tame that horse. This is about publicity, Marcus. By this time tomorrow, everyone in the country will be talking about Harrison Reed." As Marcus retreated, Harrison descended the steps of his porch and began the walk toward the stables. The gravel crunched beneath his hand-crafted Italian shoes, another reminder of the vast distance between himself and the common folk who would soon flood his property for a chance at his money. The stable manager, Ramirez, straightened as Harrison approached. The man had worked with horses all his life, his weathered face a testament to years spent under the sun. "Mr. Reed," he greeted with a respectful nod. "How is our star attraction today?" Harrison asked, approaching the stall where Tempest was kept separate from the other horses. Ramirez's expression tightened. "Still dangerous, sir. Nearly took my arm off this morning during feeding. 3 of my best handlers quit after trying to exercise him." Harrison couldn't suppress his smile. "Excellent." Through the bars, he observed the magnificent creature. Tempest stood at 17 hands tall, his coat so black it seemed to absorb the light around him. The stallion's muscles rippled beneath his skin as he paced the confines of his stall, his movements a perfect combination of power and grace. When the horse turned, its eyes locked with Harrison's, intelligent, defiant, and filled with a wild fury that sent a chill down the millionaire's spine. "Worth every penny," Harrison murmured. "Sir, I must advise against this contest," Ramirez said quietly. "This horse. There's something not right about him. He's not just untamed. He seems to hate people. I've worked with difficult horses my entire life, but this one—" He shook his head. "Someone could get killed." Harrison waved away the concern. "That's why everyone will sign waivers. Besides, we'll have medical staff on standby." He turned away from the stall, missing how Tempest reared suddenly and slammed his hooves against the door, making the entire structure shudder. Ramirez flinched, but Harrison merely checked his watch. "The first contestants arrive at 9 tomorrow. Make sure Tempest is ready for his debut." As the sun rose the following morning, cars began lining the long driveway leading to the Reed estate. Local news vans set up their equipment while journalists mingled with the crowd of hopeful contestants, professional rodeo riders, horse trainers, and amateurs alike, all drawn by the allure of instant wealth. Harrison watched from his office window as the spectacle unfolded. He had spared no expense. A temporary arena had been constructed overnight, complete with grandstands for spectators and a special box for Harrison himself. Banners bearing his company's logo fluttered in the breeze, ensuring that every photograph and video clip would feature his brand prominently. "Your first appointment is here," Marcus announced from the doorway. Harrison turned. "I thought we were starting with the contestants at 9. This isn't a contestant, sir. It's Emma Lawson, the horse behaviorist you consulted before purchasing Tempest. She's quite insistent on speaking with you. Harrison's jaw tightened. Fine. Send her in. Emma Lawson entered the room like a storm. 5 feet of barely contained fury in worn jeans and a flannel shirt rolled up at the sleeves. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her face, though striking, was set in a scowl. Mr. Reed, she said, not bothering with pleasantries, you need to call this off. Harrison gestured to a chair, which Emma ignored. Ms. Lawson, I appreciate your concern, but everything is under control. Nothing about this is under control, she countered. I told you when you were considering buying Tempest that he wasn't just difficult, he's traumatized. His previous owner in Spain used brutal methods to try breaking him. That horse associates humans with pain. Harrison leaned against his desk, arms crossed. Which is precisely why this makes for such compelling entertainment. The untamable horse, the impossible challenge. Emma stepped closer, her green eyes flashing with anger. This isn't about the horse, is it? This is about you, your ego, your publicity stunt. My money, my horse, my rules, Harrison replied coolly. You were paid for your consultation, Ms. Lawson. Your services are no longer required. People could get seriously hurt today. They'll sign waivers. Emma shook her head in disgust. A piece of paper won't stop that horse from crushing someone's skull. But you don't care about that, do you? As long as Harrison Reed makes headlines. She turned to leave, but paused at the door. That horse deserves better than to be your circus act. Harrison's smile never reached his eyes. Everyone has their purpose, Ms. Lawson. Tempest's is to make me famous. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a show to host. By 10 o'clock, the makeshift arena was packed with spectators. Harrison Reed stood in the center, microphone in hand, his tailored suit making him stand out among the crowd of denim and flannel. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice boomed across the grounds. Welcome to the challenge of a lifetime. Before you stands the undefeated Tempest. He gestured to the holding pen where the black stallion paced, nostrils flared and eyes wild. A horse that has thrown every rider who has ever dared mount him. The crowd murmured as they took in the magnificent animal. Even from a distance, the horse's dangerous energy was palpable. The rules are simple, Harrison continued. Ride Tempest for 8 seconds. Walk away with $1 million cash. He paused for effect. Fully tame him. Prove you can ride, direct, and control him. And my entire fortune is yours. A cheer went up from the crowd, particularly from the section where the contestants waited, their faces a mixture of determination and apprehension. Who will be our first brave soul? Harrison called. A burly man stepped forward, his championship rodeo belt buckle gleaming in the sun. Jackson Wyatt, sir. Rode bulls and broncs for 20 years. Never met a horse I couldn't handle. Harrison smiled. Then step right up, Mr. Wyatt. Your fortune awaits. The process of getting Tempest saddled took 4 handlers and nearly caused a riot in itself. The horse reared, kicked, and fought against every touch. By the time Jackson Wyatt was ready to mount, the crowd was already on edge, sensing the raw danger in the air. Jackson approached the chute where Tempest was now confined, a temporary calm settling over the stallion as it pressed against the back of the enclosure. The experienced rider eased himself onto the saddle, his movements slow and deliberate. "Ready," he called. The gate swung open, and hell broke loose. Tempest exploded from the chute, his powerful body twisting and bucking with a violence that seemed impossible. Jackson, for all his experience, was airborne within 2 seconds, his body flung like a rag doll before crashing hard into the dirt. Medical staff rushed forward as the crowd gasped. Jackson was helped to his feet, limping but intact, his pride more wounded than his body. "That's one down," Harrison announced, barely concealing his delight. "Who's next?" What followed was a parade of failure. Professional after professional tried their hand. Rodeo champions, horse whisperers, trainers with decades of experience. None lasted more than 3 seconds on Tempest's back. Some walked away with bruises. Others were carried out on stretchers. From her position at the edge of the crowd, Emma Lawson watched with growing horror. The horse was beyond terrified, its fear manifesting as rage. Each failed attempt only made Tempest more frantic, more dangerous. By mid-afternoon, the mood had shifted. The initial excitement had given way to a somber realization. Harrison Reed's challenge might truly be impossible. The millionaire, however, seemed more pleased with each failure, his smile growing wider as contestant after contestant was thrown. "Perhaps we should take a short break," Marcus suggested quietly at Harrison's side. "The horse is getting more agitated." "Nonsense," Harrison replied. "This is what they came to see. Drama. Danger." He raised the microphone again. "Is there no one who can tame the untamable? No one worthy of claiming my fortune?" A hush fell over the crowd as a slender figure pushed through to the front. A young woman, no, barely more than a girl, stepped forward. She couldn't have been more than 19 or 20, dressed in simple jeans and a worn t-shirt. Her dark hair was braided down her back, and her face, though pretty, was unremarkable save for her eyes, a striking amber color that seemed to catch the sunlight. "I'd like to try," she said, her voice soft but carrying across the sudden silence. Harrison laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. "Young lady, we've had professional riders with decades of experience fail today. I admire your courage, but I'm not in the business of sending children to the hospital." The girl didn't flinch. "My name is Lily Morgan. I work at a rescue ranch for abused horses." Her eyes flicked to Tempest, who had been returned to the holding pen where he paced frantically. "And I'd like to try." Harrison was about to refuse when he noticed the cameras turning toward the girl. This was good television, the young underdog facing the impossible challenge. His publicity-hungry mind calculated the potential headlines. "Reed gives unknown girl chance at $1 million horse." "Very well, Ms. Morgan," he said with a theatrical sigh. "But I must insist you sign an additional waiver acknowledging the extreme danger." Lily nodded, her expression unchanged. As she moved toward the preparation area, Emma Lawson intercepted her. "Don't do this," Emma urged. "That horse is dangerous and getting worse with each attempt." Lily's amber eyes met Emma's. "I know," she said quietly. "That's why I have to try. Not for the money. For him." Emma studied the girl's face, recognizing something in her determination. "You see it too, don't you? What they've done to him." Lily nodded again, then continued toward the holding area, leaving Emma standing with a mixture of concern and curiosity. Unlike the previous contestants, Lily didn't immediately approach the saddling area. Instead, she stopped at a respectful distance from Tempest's pen and simply stood there, watching the frantic horse with steady eyes. The crowd grew restless as minutes passed with Lily simply standing there, making no move toward the agitated stallion. Murmurs of confusion rippled through the spectators. Harrison Reed checked his watch impatiently before stepping forward, microphone in hand. "Ms. Morgan," he called, his amplified voice causing Tempest to flinch and rear in his enclosure. "While we appreciate your unconventional approach, this is a riding competition, not a staring contest." A few chuckles spread through the audience, but Lily didn't acknowledge Harrison. Her focus remained entirely on Tempest, her body language relaxed yet attentive. The horse, for his part, continued to pace and snort, but his movements seemed less frantic than before. "I'm afraid if you're not going to attempt to ride the horse," Harrison continued, irritation creeping into his voice, "we'll have to move on to the next contestant." "Give her a chance," came a voice from the crowd. Emma Lawson had stepped forward, arms crossed over her chest. "She's doing exactly what needs to be done." Harrison's jaw tightened, but the cameras had swung toward Emma, and he was acutely aware of how it would look if he shut down this unexpected development. With a stiff nod, he stepped back. Lily finally spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "I'd like to enter the pen now, without a saddle or bridle." A collective gasp rose from the onlookers. Even Emma looked alarmed. "Absolutely not," Ramirez, the stable manager, interjected. "It's suicide. It's her funeral, Harrison muttered, though loud enough for those nearby to hear. To the girl, he called, "The contest rules require a proper ride with standard equipment, Ms. Morgan." Lily turned to face him, and something in her steady gaze made Harrison pause. "Your challenge was to tame him," she said simply. "This is how it starts." Before anyone could stop her, Lily climbed the fence and dropped softly into Tempest's enclosure. The crowd fell deadly silent. Parents covered their children's eyes. Several people pulled out phones, anticipating disaster. Tempest froze, his massive body tense as a coiled spring, dark eyes fixed on the human who had dared enter his space. Lily stood perfectly still, her hands open at her sides, her breathing slow and measured. For what seemed an eternity, neither moved. Then Lily did something that made the audience hold their collective breath. She turned her back on the horse and slowly sat down in the dirt of the pen, cross-legged, head slightly bowed. "What the hell is she doing?" Harrison hissed to Marcus. "This isn't what I planned." "I don't know, sir, but the press is eating it up," Marcus replied, nodding toward the journalists who were frantically taking notes and photos. Inside the pen, the standoff continued. Tempest pawed at the ground, nostrils flaring. Several times he took a threatening step toward the seated girl, only to back away again. Lily remained motionless except for the rise and fall of her shoulders as she breathed. Minutes stretched into a quarter hour. Some spectators began to lose interest, turning to conversations or checking their phones. Others remained transfixed, sensing they were witnessing something extraordinary. Finally, there was movement. Tempest, his steps hesitant, began to circle Lily. With each pass, he drew slightly closer. The girl didn't react, didn't turn to track his movements. She simply sat, a picture of patience. On his third circuit, Tempest stopped directly behind Lily. The horse lowered his massive head, his breath stirring the loose strands of hair at the nape of her neck. A collective intake of breath swept through the audience. One quick move from those powerful jaws could break her spine. Instead, Tempest sniffed her, cautiously at first, then with more curiosity. Lily remained still, though a close observer might have noticed the slight trembling of her hands, the only indication of her awareness of the danger. After a long moment, Tempest snorted and took a step back. Then, to the astonishment of everyone watching, he moved to Lily's side and lowered himself to the ground, folding his legs beneath him in a posture horses rarely take except when feeling completely secure. A hush fell over the crowd, followed by scattered applause that quickly grew into a thunderous ovation. Lily finally moved, turning her head slightly to look at the resting stallion beside her. A small smile touched her lips. Harrison Reed stood frozen, his expression a mixture of disbelief and growing alarm. This wasn't supposed to happen. No one was supposed to connect with Tempest. Certainly not this unknown girl with her unorthodox methods. "She hasn't ridden him," he said to Marcus, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "The challenge was to ride him for 8 seconds. This doesn't qualify." Emma Lawson, who had moved closer to the VIP area, fixed Harrison with a contemptuous stare. "She's done more in 15 minutes than your rodeo cowboys did all day. She's proving she can tame him." "Sitting in dirt while a horse takes a nap isn't taming," Harrison snapped back. Inside the pen, Lily had begun to slowly raise her hand. Tempest watched her but didn't move away. When her palm finally made contact with his neck, a visible shudder passed through the horse's body, but he remained in place, accepting her touch perhaps for the first time since his traumatic training. "Ladies and gentlemen," Harrison announced suddenly, striding forward with his microphone. "While this has been a fascinating demonstration of patience, it doesn't meet the criteria of our challenge. Ms. Morgan has not attempted to ride Tempest, which was the clear requirement." Boos erupted from sections of the crowd. Near the pen, Ramirez shook his head in disapproval of his employer's tactics. "The contest will continue tomorrow," Harrison pressed on, raising his voice over the crowd's displeasure. "Ms. Morgan is welcome to make a proper attempt then if she wishes." Inside the pen, Lily seemed oblivious to the controversy. Her full attention remained on Tempest, who had now lifted his head to better receive her gentle strokes along his neck. For the first time all day, the horse's eyes had lost their wild panic, replaced by something approaching cautious interest. As staff began to usher the disappointed crowd toward the exits, Emma Lawson approached the pen. "Lily," she called softly. "They're shutting down for today." Lily nodded without looking up. "He needs more time," she said. "I need to stay with him." "Reed won't allow it," Emma replied. "He's already trying to disqualify you on a technicality." At this, Lily finally turned. "I don't care about his contest or his money. I care about this horse." Her amber eyes were fierce with determination. "He's been hurt so badly. I can feel it in every muscle of his body." Emma glanced toward Harrison, who was engaged in a heated discussion with his legal team. "I agree with you, but this is private property. They'll force you to leave." Lily's expression hardened. "Then I'll be back tomorrow, and the next day, and every day until someone does right by this animal." As if understanding her words, Tempest pressed his muzzle against Lily's shoulder in a gesture that, from such a dangerous horse, seemed nothing short of miraculous. Harrison Reed noticed the interaction from across the arena, his face darkening. He turned to Marcus. "I want security to escort that girl off my property as soon as she's out of the pen, and I want a full background check on her by morning." "Yes, sir," Marcus replied, looking uncomfortable. "But the press is already running with this story. Social media is blowing up with videos of her and the horse. If we forcibly remove her now—" "I don't care," Harrison snapped. "This is my event, my horse, my rules. She doesn't get to rewrite them." Meanwhile, Lily had begun to sing softly to Tempest, a gentle, wordless melody that seemed to further calm the stallion. When Ramirez cautiously approached the pen, he found himself standing in disbelief at the transformation. The same horse that had nearly taken his arm off that morning was now resting his head in the lap of a slip of a girl, his eyes half closed in what appeared to be contentment. "Señorita," Ramirez said quietly, "I must ask you to leave now. We need to secure the horse for the night." Lily looked up, her expression troubled. "He'll panic if you try to handle him the way you did before. Let me help move him to his stall." Ramirez hesitated, torn between his employer's expectations and what was clearly best for the horse. "Mr. Reed would not approve." "Mr. Reed isn't the one who has to deal with 1,000 pounds of terrified horse," Lily countered. "Please, let me show you how to approach him." After a moment's consideration, Ramirez nodded. "Quickly, before Mr. Reed notices." Over the next 20 minutes, Lily demonstrated how to use body language and patience to gain Tempest's cooperation. Under her guidance, the horse willingly followed her from the pen toward the stables, without the need for the harsh restraints that had been used earlier. From his office window, Harrison watched the procession with growing fury. This was not at all what he had planned. The untamable horse was supposed to remain untamable, a perfect publicity vehicle that would keep his name in the headlines for weeks as contestant after contestant failed to claim his money. Instead, some unknown girl had connected with Tempest in a way that threatened to undermine the entire spectacle. Worse, she had done it in front of cameras and a crowd of witnesses. Harrison turned to his legal team, who had assembled in his office. "I need options," he demanded. "How do I shut this down without looking like the villain?" The lead attorney, a sharp-featured woman in her 50s, frowned. "The contract language for the challenge is quite specific, Mr. Reed. Contestants must ride the horse for 8 seconds to claim the million or fully tame him to claim your fortune." The term fully tame is defined as the ability to ride, direct, and control the animal. "And she hasn't done any of that," Harrison pointed out. "She sat in dirt and hummed to him." "True," the attorney agreed. "But social media is already calling what we saw the beginning of a successful taming process. If she returns tomorrow and demonstrates further progress—" Harrison slammed his fist on the desk. "Then we make sure she doesn't return. Find something, anything that gives us grounds to disqualify her." As the meeting continued inside, Lily Morgan finally exited the stables. She looked exhausted but satisfied, her clothes dirty from the arena floor. Emma Lawson was waiting for her. "That was remarkable," Emma said. "Where did you learn to work with horses like that?" Lily's smile was tired but genuine. "I told you, I work at a rescue ranch. Most of our horses come from situations like tempests, abuse, neglect. They've learned to fear humans. And you've learned how to help them trust again, Emma finished. Listen, Reed isn't going to make this easy for you. He has too much ego invested in this challenge. I'm not here for him, Lily replied, her gaze drifting back toward the stables. I'm here for Tempest. Night had fallen over the Reed estate, but the main house blazed with light. In his study, Harrison paced back and forth while Marcus scrolled through a tablet, periodically reading information aloud. Lily Morgan, 22 years old, grew up in foster care after losing her parents in a car accident at age 7. No criminal record. Works at Horizon Ranch, a non-profit that rehabilitates abused horses and offers equine therapy for troubled youth. Marcus looked up. Honestly, sir, there's nothing here we can use against her. Harrison stopped pacing. Everyone has something. Keep digging. The press is requesting interviews with her, Marcus continued. Social media is calling her the horse whisperer and David to your Goliath. Several animal rights groups have already issued statements praising her approach and criticizing the contest. Harrison's face darkened. This was not the publicity he had envisioned. He was supposed to be the generous philanthropist offering a fortune in an impossible challenge, not the villain being taken down by some horse-loving orphan. Where is she now? He demanded. She left the property about an hour ago. According to security, she's staying at the Pinewood Motel down the road. Emma Lawson is with her. Emma, Harrison muttered. I should have known she'd make trouble. She's had it out for me since I ignored her warnings about Tempest. A knock at the door interrupted them. Ramirez entered, looking uncomfortable. You wanted to see me, Mr. Reed? Harrison fixed his stable manager with a cold stare. Explain to me why you allowed that girl to interfere with my horse. Ramirez straightened, his weathered face set with resolve. With respect, sir, she did what none of us could do. Tempest is calm for the first time since he arrived. He ate his entire dinner tonight without trying to kick down the stall. That's not what I asked, Harrison snapped. You work for me, not for some random contestant who decided to change the rules. I work for you, yes, Ramirez agreed. But I have a responsibility to the animals in my care. What that young woman did today was good for the horse. Harrison waved a dismissive hand. The horse is a means to an end. I didn't pay $3 million for a pet. Ramirez's expression hardened. Then may I ask what your plans are for tomorrow, sir? Because Tempest is still dangerous. The girl made progress, but one day of gentle handling won't undo months of abuse. Tomorrow, Harrison said, a cold smile forming. We get back on script. The girl can try to ride him properly or withdraw from the competition. Either way, my challenge continues as planned. After Ramirez left, Harrison turned to Marcus. Make sure security keeps a close eye on the stables tonight. I wouldn't put it past Emma Lawson to try something. Marcus nodded, though his usual efficient demeanor seemed strained. Will that be all, sir? Harrison studied his assistant's face. You disapprove. Marcus hesitated. It's not my place to... No, it's not, Harrison cut him off. But since I value honesty, go ahead. I think the girl showed exceptional skill today, Marcus said carefully. The crowd responded to her. The press loved it. There might be a way to incorporate her approach into the challenge that would reflect positively on you. Harrison considered this for a moment. You mean co-opt her method? Make it seem like this was the plan all along? Something like that, Marcus replied. It would certainly generate more positive coverage than shutting her down. Harrison walked to the window, looking out at the darkened property. I'll think about it. In the meantime, double the security around the stables. Miles away at the Pinewood Motel, Lily sat cross-legged on her bed, her phone propped against a lamp as she video chatted with an older woman whose kind face filled the screen. The videos of you are everywhere, honey, the woman was saying. Everyone at the ranch is so proud. Lily smiled tiredly. Thanks, Martha. I just did what we always do with the rescues. Tempest isn't so different from Storm when he first came to us. Except Storm wasn't worth $3 million, Martha replied. Be careful, Lily. Men like Harrison Reed don't like being shown up, especially not in public. A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. That's probably Emma, Lily told Martha. I'll call you tomorrow with an update. She ended the call and opened the door to find Emma Lawson holding 2 takeout containers and a determined expression. You need to eat, Emma said, pushing past Lily into the small motel room. And we need to strategize. Reed is going to try to stop you tomorrow. Lily accepted the food gratefully. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the smell of hot food reached her. How do you know? Because I know Harrison Reed, Emma replied, sitting in the room's only chair. His ego is his weakness. What you did today made him look foolish in front of the crowd, and he won't forgive that. Lily took a bite of her burger, considering. I wasn't trying to embarrass him. I just wanted to help Tempest. I know that, but Reed sees everything as a competition, and right now, you're winning. Emma leaned forward. Tell me honestly, do you think you can fully tame that horse? Lily set down her food, her expression serious. Given enough time, yes. Tempest is traumatized, not inherently vicious. Today was just the first step, getting him to accept human presence without fear. But real trust takes time. Time that Reed won't give you, Emma pointed out. He'll insist you ride Tempest tomorrow or forfeit. Then I'll find another way, Lily said with quiet determination. That horse deserves better than to be a sideshow attraction. Emma studied the younger woman thoughtfully. You really don't care about the money, do you? Lily shook her head. Money comes and goes, but once a horse like Tempest trusts you, that bond is priceless. Emma smiled, a plan forming in her mind. Finish your dinner. Then I want to tell you about a legal loophole in Reed's challenge that might help us tomorrow. The next morning dawned clear and cool, with a gentle breeze rustling through the trees surrounding the Reed estate. The crowd that gathered was even larger than the previous day, news of Lily's unusual approach having spread overnight. Harrison Reed stood on his porch, surveying the growing audience with narrowed eyes. He was dressed impeccably as always, but those who knew him well might have noticed the tension in his jaw, the tightness around his eyes. The girl is already at the stables, Marcus reported, appearing at his side. She arrived at dawn and asked Ramirez if she could see Tempest. He allowed it. Harrison's nostrils flared in anger. Without consulting me first. Ramirez said you hadn't explicitly forbidden it, Marcus replied cautiously. And given the public interest, he thought it best to cooperate rather than create a scene. Harrison turned to stride toward the stables, Marcus hurrying to keep pace. The press is here in full force, the assistant continued. National networks this time, not just local stations. They're all waiting to see what happens next. What happens next, Harrison said through gritted teeth, is I regain control of my own event. As they approached the stables, they could see a small crowd gathered around one of the paddocks. Harrison pushed his way through, coming to an abrupt halt at the sight before him. Lily Morgan sat on the top rail of the fence, her posture relaxed as she tossed apple slices to Tempest, who stood nearby. The massive black stallion was still cautious, keeping a few feet of distance, but he eagerly stretched his neck to collect each piece of fruit from the ground. Harrison was struck by the transformation. Gone was the wild, terrified animal from yesterday. While Tempest was clearly still wary, the murderous panic had left his eyes. The horse looked almost normal. Good morning, Mr. Reed, Lily said without taking her eyes off Tempest. He's doing much better today. Harrison forced a smile, acutely aware of the cameras pointed in their direction. Indeed. You seem to have a way with him, Ms. Morgan. He just needed someone to listen, Lily replied, finally turning to meet Harrison's gaze. Animals tell us what they need if we pay attention. Fascinating, Harrison said, his tone brittle with forced politeness. However, today we must return to the actual challenge. The crowd is expecting a riding competition, not a feeding demonstration. Lily's expression didn't change, but Emma Lawson stepped forward from where she'd been watching nearby. Actually, Mr. Reed, Emma said, loud enough for the surrounding journalists to hear, Lily is well within the parameters of your challenge. You offered your fortune to anyone who could fully tame Tempest, defined in your own contract as the ability to ride, direct, and control him. Harrison's smile tightened. Exactly. And as of yet, Ms. Morgan has done none of those things. Taming a traumatized horse is a process, Emma countered. One that Lily has successfully begun, unless you're changing the terms of your challenge? The gathered press perked up at this, pens poised over notepads, cameras zooming in on Harrison's face. He realized he was being backed into a corner. If he changed the rules now, he'd appear petty and unfair. If he didn't, this girl might actually succeed where no one was supposed to. The terms remain the same, he said stiffly. But at some point, Ms. Morgan will need to demonstrate actual riding and control, not just feeding and whatever this is. He gestured vaguely toward the paddock. Building trust, Lily supplied, hopping down from the fence. And I'm ready to show more progress today, if you'll allow me to continue working with Tempest my way. Harrison hesitated, calculating his options. Denying her would make him look bad. Allowing her to continue might lead to her actually winning. Neither option appealed to him. Very well, he finally said. You may continue your approach. But by the end of today, I expect to see concrete progress toward the stated goals of riding and controlling the horse. Otherwise, I'll have to rule that you've failed the challenge. Lily nodded, her expression neutral. That's fair. Thank you. As Harrison turned to leave, he caught Ramirez watching him with an unreadable expression. A word, please, he said to his stable manager, leading him out of earshot of the crowd. If that girl tries anything dangerous, you shut it down immediately, Harrison instructed. I don't care how good she is with the horse. I won't have an accident on my property. Ramirez studied his employer. Are you concerned for her safety, Mr. Reed, or worried she might succeed? Harrison's eyes narrowed. Just do your job, he said coldly, before stalking back toward the house. Left alone with Tempest once more, Lily reached into her pocket for another apple slice. Well, boy, she murmured as the stallion cautiously approached to take the treat. Looks like we've got work to do today. By mid-morning, the temporary arena was once again filled with spectators. The atmosphere had shifted noticeably from the previous day, where there had been a carnival-like excitement at the prospect of watching daring riders test their skills. Today there was a hushed anticipation, a sense that they might witness something rare and special. Harrison Reed sat in his private box, outwardly composed but inwardly seething. His publicity stunt had been hijacked, transformed into something he never intended. Worse, he was trapped by his own rules and the public's perception. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing with calls from business associates who had seen the morning news coverage. We're ready whenever Ms. Morgan is, Marcus informed him, appearing at his side. Harrison checked his watch. She's had 2 hours with that horse. Let's see if she's made any actual progress, or if she's just been feeding him treats all morning. Down at the arena, Ramirez approached the preparation area where Lily was adjusting a simple halter, the first piece of equipment Tempest had allowed on his head without fighting. Senorita, Mr. Reed is asking if you're ready to begin, Ramirez said. Lily nodded, giving the halter one final check. We're ready, but I need to do this my way. No loud announcements, no crowd noise if possible. Ramirez hesitated. Mr. Reed expects a show. The people came to see— I know what they came to see, Lily interrupted gently. And they will see it. But if we want Tempest to trust us, we need to respect his boundaries. After a moment's consideration, Ramirez nodded. He had seen enough of Lily's work with the horse to respect her judgment. He walked to the center of the arena and raised his hands for quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, he called, today's demonstration will begin momentarily. At the request of our contestant, please keep noise to a minimum during this first portion. Thank you for your cooperation. A curious hush fell over the crowd. Harrison frowned from his box but said nothing, watching intently as Lily led Tempest into the arena. The difference in the horse was remarkable. Where yesterday he had been a barely contained tornado of fear and aggression, today he walked beside Lily with cautious steps, his head low but his ears forward, alert but not panicked. The girl maintained a loose hold on a lead rope attached to the halter, though it seemed more a suggestion than a restraint. They reached the center of the arena, and Lily stopped. Speaking too softly for the audience to hear, she murmured something to Tempest, then released the lead rope entirely. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. The dangerous stallion was now technically free in the open arena. Tempest took 2 steps away from Lily, then stopped, turning his head to look back at her as if uncertain. Lily remained perfectly still, her posture open and relaxed. Then, with deliberate movements, she raised her hand, palm facing outward. The horse stared at her, the silence in the arena so complete that the sound of his tail swishing could be heard in the front rows. Then, to the astonishment of everyone watching, Tempest turned and walked back to Lily, pressing his muzzle against her raised palm. A ripple of amazed murmurs spread through the audience. Even Harrison leaned forward in his seat, his expression a mixture of disbelief and growing concern. Over the next 20 minutes, Lily demonstrated a series of groundwork exercises with Tempest. She would step away, and he would follow. She would raise her hand, and he would stop. With the gentlest of cues, sometimes just a shift in her body position, she directed the horse to move left or right, to back up, to come forward. "She's doing it," Emma whispered from her position near the arena gate. "She's showing she can direct and control him without force." Harrison had noticed the same thing, and his face had grown increasingly stony. This girl was methodically satisfying the conditions of his challenge, but in a way he had never anticipated. There were no dramatic bucks, no throws, no danger, just an elegant, almost balletic communication between human and horse. After nearly half an hour of this display, Lily guided Tempest back to the center of the arena. She turned to face the VIP box where Harrison sat. "Mr. Reed," she called, her voice carrying in the hushed space, "I believe I've demonstrated that I can direct and control Tempest. Would you agree?" Every eye turned to Harrison. He was cornered, and he knew it. To deny the evidence of what everyone had just witnessed would make him appear petty and dishonest. "You've shown impressive groundwork," he acknowledged stiffly. "But the challenge requires riding as well." Lily nodded. "I understand. With your permission, I'd like to continue working toward that goal." "Proceed," Harrison said, his tone clipped. Lily turned her attention back to Tempest. From a pocket, she produced a soft cloth which she showed to the horse, allowing him to sniff it thoroughly. Then, slowly, she draped it over his back. Tempest tensed but didn't bolt. Lily stood beside him, one hand resting on his neck, speaking to him in that same quiet voice that seemed to reach something deep within the traumatized animal. After a few moments, the horse relaxed, accepting the cloth's presence. "She's desensitizing him," Emma explained to a nearby journalist who looked confused. "Getting him used to the feeling of something on his back before attempting a rider." Lily worked patiently, gradually increasing the weight and pressure on Tempest's back. She replaced the cloth with a light saddle pad, then eventually a specially designed lightweight saddle that Ramirez had found in the stables. Each step was taken with meticulous care, giving the horse time to accept each new sensation. By early afternoon, Tempest was standing calmly with a full saddle on his back, an achievement that would have seemed impossible just a day earlier. The crowd, which had initially grown restless during the slow, methodical process, had become completely invested, watching in fascinated silence as Lily accomplished what seasoned professionals had failed to do. Harrison checked his watch repeatedly, growing more agitated as the day wore on. He had hoped the girl would fail, that Tempest would revert to his wild behavior, or that she would rush the process and trigger his fear. Instead, she was making steady, undeniable progress. "This isn't what we planned," he muttered to Marcus. "No, sir," his assistant agreed. "But the press coverage is extraordinary. Your name is trending on every social media platform." "For all the wrong reasons," Harrison snapped. "I'm becoming the villain in my own story." Down in the arena, Lily had reached the critical moment. After hours of preparation, Tempest was ready for the final test. She gathered the reins in her hand and placed her foot in the stirrup, pausing there to let the horse feel her weight. Tempest's muscles tensed, and for a moment, it seemed he might revert to his old panic. A tremor ran through his powerful body. Lily froze, her foot still in the stirrup, and began to sing softly, the same wordless melody she had used the day before. The horse's ear flicked back toward her, and gradually, the trembling stopped. With exquisite slowness, Lily raised herself up and swung her leg over Tempest's back, settling gently into the saddle. The entire arena seemed to hold its breath. For several heartbeats, horse and rider remained perfectly still, a tableau that radiated a fragile trust. Then Lily shifted her weight slightly, and Tempest took a tentative step forward. Another shift, another step. Within minutes, they were walking a small circle in the center of the arena, each movement careful and deliberate. The silence broke as the crowd erupted in spontaneous applause. Tempest's ears flattened at the sudden noise, and he halted, but Lily's calm touch on his neck steadied him. They completed another circuit before she carefully dismounted, her face glowing with quiet triumph. She led Tempest to the center of the arena and once again addressed Harrison Reed. "Mr. Reed," she called, her voice steady, despite her obvious fatigue. "I've now demonstrated that I can ride, direct, and control Tempest without force or fear. According to the terms of your challenge, I believe I've succeeded in taming him." Harrison stood abruptly, his face a mask of controlled fury. This wasn't supposed to happen. No one was supposed to claim his fortune. The entire challenge had been designed to be impossible, a publicity stunt, not a genuine contest. But as he looked around at the expectant faces of the crowd, the cameras trained on his every move, he realized he had no choice. To deny what everyone had witnessed would destroy his reputation more thoroughly than paying out the prize. "Ms. Morgan," he said, his voice amplified by the arena's sound system, "you've shown remarkable skill today. However, true taming requires more than a single riding session. Tempest must demonstrate consistent behavior over time to be considered fully tamed." A murmur of discontent rippled through the audience. Emma Lawson stepped forward, a copy of the challenge contract in her hand. "Nowhere in the terms does it specify a time requirement, Mr. Reed," she called out, her voice carrying clearly. "The contract states that the challenger must demonstrate the ability to ride, direct, and control the horse. Lily has done exactly that, as hundreds of witnesses can attest." Harrison's smile didn't reach his eyes. "The contract also gives me, as the judge of this challenge, the final determination of whether those criteria have been satisfactorily met. While Ms. Morgan has made impressive progress, I don't believe one afternoon of cooperative behavior constitutes being fully tamed." Boos erupted from sections of the crowd. Several journalists were frantically typing on their phones, no doubt reporting on the billionaire's apparent attempt to renege on his promise. Harrison raised his hands for quiet. "However," he continued, "in recognition of Ms. Morgan's extraordinary achievement, I'm prepared to offer her the $1 million consolation prize that was designated for successfully riding Tempest." The booing subsided, replaced by uncertain murmurs. Lily, still standing beside Tempest with one hand resting on his neck, looked up at Harrison with clear eyes. "This isn't about the money, Mr. Reed," she said, her voice somehow carrying despite its softness. "This is about Tempest. He deserves better than to be a prop in a publicity stunt." Harrison's jaw tightened. "Nevertheless, the $1 million is yours. As for Tempest, he remains my property." "Then I'd like to make you an offer," Lily replied without hesitation. "I'll use the $1 million to buy him from you." A hush fell over the arena as Lily's words hung in the air. The girl stood tall despite her small stature, one hand still resting on Tempest's neck, her gaze locked with Harrison Reed's. The millionaire's expression flickered between surprise and calculation. He hadn't expected this move. To have his own prize money turned against him, used to claim the very horse he had purchased as a publicity tool. $3 million, Harrison said coldly. "That's what I paid for him, the market value." Lily didn't flinch. $1 million is what you offered to anyone who could ride him. I've done that. Now I'm offering to return that money in exchange for Tempest. That's hardly a fair trade, Harrison countered, aware of the hundreds of eyes watching this exchange, the cameras recording every word. Isn't it? Emma Lawson stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly across the arena. You claimed this horse was untamable, Mr. Reed. You built an entire spectacle around that premise. If Tempest can't be tamed, as you insisted, then he's worth nothing as a riding horse. $1 million for an untamable horse seems quite generous. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Harrison's face darkened as he realized he was being outmaneuvered in front of an audience. His own words were being used against him. This is absurd, he said, standing from his seat. The horse is not for sale at any price. Lily's expression remained calm, but her eyes burned with determination. Why not? You've made it clear that Tempest is just an investment to you, a means to publicity. I'm offering you a clean exit. Take the money, give him to someone who cares about his welfare, and walk away looking generous. Harrison's jaw tightened. The girl was right. From a pure public relations standpoint, accepting her offer would be the smart move. But something in him rebelled at the thought of capitulating to this nobody, this orphan who had walked onto his property and dismantled his carefully orchestrated show. No deal, he said finally. Tempest remains my property. The challenge continues tomorrow for any other contestants who wish to attempt it. He turned to leave the box, signaling that the conversation was over. A reporter called out, Mr. Reed, does this mean you're refusing to acknowledge Ms. Morgan's success today? Harrison paused, his back to the crowd. Without turning, he replied, Ms. Morgan has earned the $1 million prize for riding Tempest. That will be delivered to her promptly. As for fully taming him, one afternoon of cooperation does not meet that standard. With that, he disappeared into the interior of the box, leaving Marcus to handle the ensuing barrage of questions. Down in the arena, Lily stood motionless, her hand still on Tempest's neck. The stallion shifted restlessly, sensing the tension in the air. I'm sorry, boy, she whispered to him. I tried. Ramirez approached cautiously. Señorita, we need to return Tempest to his stall now. Lily nodded, her face composed, though her eyes revealed her distress. I'll help you. Together, they led the horse back toward the stables, followed by Emma Lawson and a trail of journalists shouting questions that went unanswered. Once inside the relative quiet of the stable block, Lily methodically removed Tempest's saddle and halter, checking him over for any signs of stress or discomfort from the day's activities. You did more than anyone thought possible, Emma said softly, watching as Lily's gentle hands moved over the horse's powerful muscles. It's not enough, Lily replied, her voice barely audible. He'll revert without consistent handling. All that progress. It could disappear overnight if they go back to treating him with fear and force. Ramirez, who had been listening nearby, stepped closer. I give you my word. I will try to maintain what you have taught him. But... He glanced over his shoulder toward the main house. Mr. Reed expects results his way. And his way will destroy everything this horse has learned about trusting humans, Lily said, unable to keep the frustration from her voice. She pressed her forehead briefly against Tempest's neck, then stepped back. I'll be back tomorrow. Ramirez looked surprised. You're returning? Even though Mr. Reed has ruled against you? I'm not giving up, Lily said simply. Tempest deserves better. As they left the stables, they found Marcus waiting for them, his expression uncomfortable. Ms. Morgan, Mr. Reed would like to speak with you privately, at the main house. Emma immediately shook her head. Absolutely not. After the way he just treated her publicly, whatever he has to say, he can say it here. Marcus shifted his weight, clearly caught between his employer's demands and the reasonableness of Emma's objection. He's offering to discuss a potential compromise regarding Tempest. Lily and Emma exchanged glances. What kind of compromise? Lily asked cautiously. I'm not at liberty to say, Marcus replied, but he asked me to assure you it would be worth your time. After a moment's consideration, Lily nodded. I'll hear him out, for Tempest's sake. Lily, be careful, Emma warned. Reed didn't get to where he is by playing fair. I know, Lily replied, but I have to try everything. As she followed Marcus toward the imposing main house, Lily was acutely aware of the contrast between her dusty jeans and t-shirt and the opulence surrounding her. The manicured lawns, the marble steps leading to the entrance, the gleaming wood and crystal that greeted her inside, all spoke of a life she had never known and had never particularly aspired to. Marcus led her to a study that seemed to belong in another century. Leather-bound books lined the walls, a massive desk dominated the center, and the scent of expensive cigars hung in the air despite the open windows. Harrison Reed stood with his back to her, looking out over his estate. He didn't turn when she entered. "Ms. Morgan," he said, his voice controlled and cool. "Thank you for coming." Lily remained near the door, instinctively keeping her distance as she would from an unpredictable horse. "Marcus said you wanted to discuss a compromise." Harrison finally turned, studying her with calculating eyes. "Indeed. I find myself in an unexpected situation. You've created quite a stir with your performance today." "I wasn't performing," Lily said quietly. "I was helping a traumatized animal." "Semantics." Harrison waved a dismissive hand. "The fact remains that public opinion seems to be firmly on your side. My PR team informs me that social media is unfavorable to my position at the moment." Lily said nothing, waiting for him to continue. Harrison moved to his desk, picking up a folder that lay there. "I've had my legal team draw up a contract, a business proposal, if you will." He extended the folder toward her. Warily, Lily stepped forward to take it. Opening it, she scanned the first page, then looked up in surprise. "You want to hire me?" "Consider it a consulting arrangement," Harrison said smoothly. "You would work with Tempest for the next month, continuing the training you've begun. You'd be well compensated. $50,000, in addition to the $1 million you've already earned." Lily returned her attention to the document, turning pages slowly. "And at the end of the month?" "If you succeed in fully taming Tempest to my satisfaction, I'll consider selling him to you, at a reasonable price, to be negotiated at that time." Lily closed the folder. "And if I refuse?" Harrison's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Then tomorrow, the challenge continues as planned. Other riders will attempt to tame Tempest using whatever methods they deem necessary. I can't guarantee they'll be as gentle as you were." The implicit threat hung in the air between them. Lily's hands tightened on the folder. "That's blackmail," she said quietly. "That's business," Harrison corrected. "I'm offering you a chance to continue working with the horse you claim to care about. The alternative is walking away and leaving his fate to chance," Lily thought quickly. The contract in her hands was essentially a trap, a month of work with no guarantee that Harrison would actually sell Tempest at the end. But refusing meant abandoning the horse to whatever rough handling awaited him in the continuing challenge. "I need time to think," she said finally. "And I want my own lawyer to review this." Harrison's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "You have until 9 tomorrow morning. The challenge resumes at 10. Lily nodded and turned to leave, the folder clutched in her hand. "One more thing, Ms. Morgan," Harrison called after her. She paused at the door but didn't turn. "The contract includes a non-disclosure agreement. If you accept, you'll no longer be permitted to speak to the press about Tempest or my challenge. That privilege becomes exclusively mine." Now Lily did turn, meeting his gaze directly. "So that's what this is really about. Silencing me." Harrison shrugged, unperturbed by her accusation. "As I said, business. Consider your options carefully." Outside the main house, Emma was waiting anxiously. What happened? What did he want? Lily handed her the folder without a word. Emma flipped through it, her expression growing increasingly outraged. "This is unbelievable," she finally sputtered. "He's trying to buy your silence and use your skills at the same time, and there's no binding commitment for him to sell you Tempest at the end." "I know," Lily said, her voice tired but resolute. "But what choice do I have?" If I walk away, he'll let other riders abuse Tempest until he breaks, either mentally or physically. Emma closed the folder with a snap. We need to think strategically. Reed is playing hardball, but he's also desperate. He wouldn't have offered this if he wasn't feeling the pressure of public opinion. What do you suggest? We need leverage, Emma replied, her mind working rapidly. Something that makes it more painful for him to keep Tempest than to let him go. As they walked back toward the stables, Lily noticed a group of protesters gathering at the estate's entrance. Animal rights activists with signs condemning the horse-taming challenge as cruel and exploitative. An idea began to form in her mind. What if we could prove that Tempest was abused before Reed bought him? She asked slowly. If we could document that his previous owner used illegal training methods. Emma's eyes widened as she caught on. Then Reed's publicity stunt would be reframed as perpetuating animal cruelty. His corporate sponsors would run for the hills. Exactly, Lily nodded. And I think I know where to start looking for that evidence. Back at the Pinewood Motel that evening, Lily placed a video call to Martha at Horizon Ranch. After explaining the situation, she asked, "Do you still have contacts in Spain? Someone who might know about Tempest's previous owner?" Martha's face grew serious. "I might. But Lily, you're talking about going up against a billionaire. If you start digging into his business dealings..." "It's not about him," Lily interrupted. "It's about Tempest, and all the other horses being mistreated for entertainment or profit." She took a deep breath. "Will you help me?" After a long pause, Martha nodded. "I'll make some calls. But be careful, honey. Men like Reed don't play by the same rules as the rest of us." As Lily ended the call, she gazed out the motel window toward the distant lights of the Reed estate. Somewhere in those stables, Tempest was alone again, perhaps wondering if the gentle human who had connected with him would return. Dawn broke with a gentle mist hanging over the valley, shrouding the Reed estate in ethereal light. Lily had been awake for hours, sitting cross-legged on her motel bed, surrounded by printouts of legal documents and handwritten notes. Her laptop displayed an email from Martha with a list of contacts in Spain who might have information about Tempest's history. A knock at the door startled her from her concentration. Emma entered, carrying coffee and a folder thick with papers. "You look like you haven't slept," Emma observed, handing Lily a cup. "Not much," Lily admitted, taking a grateful sip. "But I think I have a plan." Emma sat on the edge of the bed, pushing aside some papers to make room. "My lawyer friend reviewed Reed's contract. It's exactly what we thought. A glorified gag order with a vague promise that might never materialize." Lily nodded, unsurprised. "I'm not signing it, but I'm also not walking away." "What's your plan?" Lily gathered her scattered notes, organizing them into a cohesive stack. "Martha connected me with a journalist in Madrid who covers equestrian sports. He's been investigating illegal training methods used on show horses, including at the stable where Tempest came from." Emma's eyebrows rose. And he's sending documentation, veterinary records, witness statements, even videos. If they show what we think they will, Reed's Untamable horse is actually a victim of abuse that would violate animal welfare laws in both Spain and the United States. "That's powerful leverage," Emma agreed. "But gathering and verifying that evidence will take time. Time we don't have if Reed restarts the challenge today." Lily's expression hardened. "Then we need to buy time. I'm going to make Reed a counteroffer." Within the hour, Lily and Emma were once again at the Reed estate. The atmosphere was noticeably different from the previous days. Security had been increased, and staff members eyed them warily as they made their way toward the stables. The protest group at the entrance had grown significantly, their chants audible even from a distance. Ramirez met them at the stable entrance, his face lined with worry. "Señorita Lily, I'm glad you came. Tempest was restless all night. He seems to be looking for you." Lily's heart constricted at these words. "Can I see him?" Ramirez glanced nervously toward the main house. "Mr. Reed left strict instructions. You're only to have access to Tempest during official challenge hours, with supervision." That's ridiculous, Emma protested. She's the only one who can handle him safely. Before Ramirez could respond, Marcus appeared, his usual professional demeanor strained. Ms. Morgan, Mr. Reed would like to know if you've made a decision regarding his offer. Lily straightened, her small frame somehow commanding in its quiet certainty. I have. I'd like to present a counter-proposal. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. Follow me, please. As they walked toward the main house, Emma whispered, Are you sure about this? No, Lily admitted softly. But it's the best chance we have. This time, Harrison Reed was waiting for them in his study, standing behind his massive desk like a general plotting battle strategy. His face betrayed no emotion as Lily and Emma entered. I understand you have a counteroffer, Ms. Morgan, he said without preamble. I'm listening. Lily placed a thin folder on his desk. My terms are simple. Postpone the challenge for 1 week. During that time, I'll work with Tempest daily, documenting his progress. At the end of the week, we'll have a final demonstration. If I can prove without doubt that he's been fully tamed according to your criteria, you'll sell him to me for the $1 million I've already earned. Harrison made no move to touch the folder. And why would I agree to this? Because it's in your best interest, Lily replied calmly. The public is already questioning your motives after yesterday. Giving me this chance makes you look fair and confident in your challenge. Plus, it extends the publicity you wanted, a full week of media coverage instead of just a few days. Harrison's eyes narrowed. And if you fail after this week, then you keep Tempest and the challenge proceeds as you originally planned. Lily met his gaze steadily. But I won't fail. Harrison finally reached for the folder, opening it to scan the simple one-page proposal she had drafted. No non-disclosure agreement, he noted, his tone disapproving. I won't be silenced about animal welfare, Lily said firmly. But I'm willing to add a clause that I won't disparage you personally or your companies during the week of training. Harrison closed the folder, his expression calculating. And what's to prevent you from simply using this week to curry more public favor, turning opinion further against me? Nothing, Lily admitted honestly, except that my focus will be on Tempest, not on you. All I want is what's best for the horse. For a long moment, Harrison studied her, searching for deception or hidden motives. Finding none, he sighed almost imperceptibly. Very well, Ms. Morgan. 1 week, but I'm adding conditions of my own. He pulled a pen from his desk drawer. All training sessions will be supervised by my staff. You'll work within specified hours only. And at the end of the week, I alone will judge whether Tempest meets my standards for being fully tamed. Emma started to protest, but Lily raised a hand to stop her. Agreed, with one amendment. The final demonstration will be judged not just by you, but by a panel of 3 independent equestrian experts. Harrison's jaw tightened momentarily before he nodded. Acceptable. We'll each select 1 expert, and they'll jointly select the 3rd. He made notes on Lily's proposal, then slid it back across the desk. I'll have this formalized by my legal team. Training begins tomorrow at 9 a.m. Lily picked up the marked document. I'd like to see Tempest now, to ensure he hasn't regressed overnight. Ramirez will escort you, Harrison replied dismissively, already turning his attention to his computer. For 15 minutes only. Consider it a show of good faith. As they left the study, Emma could hardly contain herself. I can't believe he agreed so easily. What's his angle? He thinks he can't lose, Lily replied quietly. Either I fail, and he proves his point about Tempest being untamable, or I succeed, and he still gets positive publicity for graciously selling the horse to me. Meanwhile, we have a week to gather evidence about Tempest's past, Emma concluded, understanding dawning on her face. Lily nodded. Exactly. At the stables, Ramirez led them to Tempest's stall. The black stallion's ears pricked forward at the sight of Lily, and he moved to the front of the enclosure, nostrils flaring as he caught her scent. He remembers you, Ramirez said, sounding surprised despite himself. Lily smiled, reaching a hand toward Tempest, who stretched his neck to touch her palm with his muzzle. Of course he does. Trust, once earned, isn't easily forgotten. She glanced at Ramirez. Has anyone else handled him since yesterday? The stable manager shook his head. I tried to approach him this morning for feeding, but he was agitated. In the end, I just left the hay where he could reach it. Lily stroked Tempest's neck, her touch gentle but confident. The horse leaned into her hand, his eyelids lowering in contentment. It's okay, boy, she murmured. I'm not going anywhere this time. While Lily spent her precious 15 minutes reconnecting with Tempest, Emma pulled Ramirez aside. Has Reed said anything about his plans for Tempest if Lily fails? Ramirez's expression grew troubled. He's already scheduling new contestants for the week after next. Big names in rodeo, some with questionable reputations for how they handle difficult horses. Emma's face darkened. So if Lily fails, Tempest goes back to being a spectacle. I'm afraid so, Senora. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Marcus, who informed them their time was up. Lily reluctantly said goodbye to Tempest, promising to return the next day. As they walked back to their car, Lily noticed Harrison watching from an upstairs window of the main house. His expression was impossible to read at that distance, but his rigid posture spoke volumes. He's worried, Emma observed, following Lily's gaze. You're the variable he didn't account for in his perfect publicity stunt. It's not about me, Lily insisted, as they got into Emma's car. It's about doing what's right for Tempest. Noble as always, Emma said with a small smile. But Reed doesn't operate on nobility. He's going to look for any way to make sure you fail. Lily nodded, her expression determined. I know. That's why we need to be one step ahead of him. They drove in silence for a few minutes before Emma asked, What's our next move? I need to make some calls, Lily replied. If we're going to prove Tempest's mistreatment, we need solid evidence, and I think I know someone who might have been there when it happened. Back at the motel, Lily spent the afternoon on video calls, speaking Spanish with a rapid fluency that surprised Emma. From what Emma could gather, Lily was talking to former stable hands, veterinary assistants, and even a competition judge who had crossed paths with Tempest before he was sold to Harrison Reed. After the final call, Lily sat back, her expression grim. It's worse than I thought. Tempest wasn't just difficult or spirited. He was intentionally traumatized to make him more explosive for competition. They used shock devices, water deprivation, even pain conditioning to make him perform at a higher energy level. Emma looked horrified. That's illegal in most countries. It is, Lily confirmed. And the stable owner is currently under investigation in Spain. But by then, Tempest had already been sold to Reed. Did Reed know about these methods? Lily shook her head. I don't think so. From what I can gather, he just wanted the most impressive, untamable horse money could buy. He probably didn't ask too many questions about how Tempest got that way. Emma considered this. So Reed might not be guilty of abuse himself, but he's perpetuating the trauma by using Tempest for his spectacle. Exactly, Lily said. And that's where we might be able to appeal to whatever conscience he has left. No one wants to be publicly associated with animal cruelty, especially not a man as image-conscious as Harrison Reed. As night fell, Lily organized her notes and prepared for the week ahead. She knew the path forward wouldn't be easy. Reed would be watching for any mistake, any excuse to declare her attempt a failure. But with each hour that passed, her resolve only strengthened. For Tempest, she would find a way. The first day of Lily's week-long training period dawned clear and cool. She arrived at the Reed estate half an hour early, a small duffel bag of equipment slung over her shoulder. To her surprise, a camera crew was already set up near the training paddock. Mr. Reed's orders, Marcus explained, appearing at her side. He wants to document every moment of your training for transparency. Lily nodded, unsurprised. That's fine. I have nothing to hide. He also asked me to inform you that several journalists will be observing today's session, Marcus continued. And he's invited a few special guests who expressed interest in the challenge. Special guests? Lily asked, scanning the small gathering of people near the paddock. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Professional trainers. Some of them were contestants in the original challenge. Lily understood immediately. Reed was surrounding her with skeptics and competitors, hoping to unnerve her or provoke a mistake. She squared her shoulders and headed toward the stables. Ramirez greeted her with a tired smile. Tempest had a restless night, he confided as he led her to the stallion's stall. I think he sensed something was happening. Tempest's ears pricked forward when he caught sight of Lily, and he nickered softly, a sound so different from the aggressive snorting of days before that Ramirez raised his eyebrows in surprise. He remembers you, the stable manager said, echoing his observation from the previous day, but with more wonder in his voice. Memory is powerful, Lily replied, approaching the stall door, especially when it's tied to emotion. She spent the first 15 minutes simply reconnecting with Tempest, speaking to him softly and running her hands over his powerful body, checking for any signs of stress or discomfort. When she finally clipped a lead rope to his halter, he followed her out of the stall willingly, his steps cautious but steady. The crowd by the paddock had grown larger. Harrison Reed stood slightly apart, impeccably dressed as always, his face impassive as he watched Lily and Tempest approach. Emma Lawson had also arrived and stood with arms crossed, her stance protective. Lily ignored the onlookers, focusing entirely on Tempest. She led him into the paddock and unclipped the lead rope, allowing him freedom within the enclosed space. For several minutes, she simply stood in the center while Tempest explored the perimeter, reacquainting himself with the environment. Shouldn't she be doing something? One of the professional trainers muttered, loud enough to be heard. She is, Emma responded curtly. She's letting him feel safe. Lily began with simple groundwork exercises similar to what she had demonstrated 2 days before, using body language and soft verbal cues to direct Tempest's movements. The horse responded with increasing confidence, circling her, stopping, backing up, and approaching on command. After an hour of this work, she moved on to more advanced exercises, introducing a light saddle pad, then the saddle itself. Tempest accepted both with minimal hesitation, a marked improvement from his previous fear. By mid-morning, Lily was ready to attempt mounting. The crowd grew silent as she placed her foot in the stirrup and slowly raised herself up. Tempest stood perfectly still. His ear flicked back toward her, but his body relaxed. When she settled into the saddle, a murmur of appreciation rippled through the observers. Lily rode at a walk, then a gentle trot around the paddock. Tempest's movements were smooth and responsive, a far cry from the terrified bucking of the original challenge contestants. When she finally dismounted and removed the saddle, the horse nuzzled her shoulder, seeking the treats he had learned would follow cooperation. That was remarkable, one of the journalists said, approaching the fence as Lily led Tempest back toward the gate. He's like a different horse. No, Lily corrected gently. He's the same horse. He's just being allowed to feel safe for perhaps the first time in his life. She looked toward Harrison, who had maintained his stony expression throughout the session. I'd like to work with him again this afternoon, if that's acceptable. Harrison nodded stiffly. As agreed. 2 hours in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. He turned to leave, then paused. Impressive first day, Ms. Morgan, but one good session doesn't make a fully tamed horse. No, Lily agreed. It takes consistency and time. That's why I asked for a week. As she led Tempest back to his stall, Lily noticed one of the professional trainers watching her with undisguised skepticism. The man, she recognized him as Jackson Wyatt, the first contestant who had attempted to ride Tempest during the original challenge, approached her as she removed Tempest's halter. Nice show, he said, his tone suggesting it was anything but. But you're using tricks, not real training. That horse is playing along for now, but he'll show his true colors eventually. Lily continued her work without acknowledging the insult. Tempest isn't the problem, Mr. Wyatt. It's how he's been treated that's the issue. Fancy words from someone who got lucky, Wyatt sneered. Real horsemen know you can't gentle a horse like that. They need to learn who's boss. Now Lily did look up, her amber eyes flashing. Real horsemen, she said quietly. Understand that horses aren't looking for a boss. They're looking for safety, consistency, and clear communication. Tempest doesn't need to be dominated. He needs to be understood. Wyatt scoffed but had no immediate reply. He stalked away, muttering under his breath. Ramirez, who had been watching the exchange, shook his head. Mr. Reed invited him specifically. I heard him say that Wyatt would be taking over Tempest's training if you fail. Lily's hand stilled on Tempest's neck. Then I won't fail, she said simply. During her lunch break, Lily met with Emma at a small picnic table set up for the event staff, away from the main activity. How's the investigation going? Lily asked in a low voice, unwrapping a sandwich. Emma glanced around to ensure they weren't being overheard. Your contacts in Spain came through. We have veterinary records showing Tempest was treated for injuries consistent with abusive training methods, and one of the former stable hands is willing to provide a sworn statement about what he witnessed. Lily nodded, absorbing this information. That's good, but not enough by itself. We need something more concrete to convince Reed to give up Tempest. I might have something else, Emma said, leaning closer. I've been researching Reed's corporate partnerships. His biggest sponsor is Safe Haven Insurance. They built their brand around family values and ethical business practices. Their CEO is very public about supporting animal welfare causes. You think they'd drop Reed if they knew about Tempest's background? I think they'd apply significant pressure, at minimum, Emma confirmed. The question is, do we approach them now or wait until we have more evidence? Lily considered this, watching as staff members began preparing the paddock for her afternoon session. Let's wait. I want to give Reed a chance to do the right thing on his own first. The afternoon training session proceeded much like the morning, with Lily building on the foundation of trust she had established with Tempest. By the end of the day, she had the stallion performing more complex maneuvers, side passing, backing through an improvised obstacle course, and responding to leg cues while mounted. Harrison Reed observed the final half hour, his expression unreadable. When Lily dismounted, he approached the fence. You've made good progress, he acknowledged, surprising her with the admission. But I'm curious about something, Ms. Morgan. Yes? Lily replied, running up her stirrups. You clearly have exceptional skill with horses, yet you work at a small rescue ranch rather than a prestigious training facility. Why is that? The question seemed genuine, lacking the usual edge in Harrison's voice. Lily considered her answer carefully. The horses at Horizon Ranch need me more, she said finally. Many of them have never known kindness from humans. Helping them learn to trust again, there's nothing more rewarding. Harrison studied her, as if trying to solve a puzzle. You could make 10 times your current salary working with competition horses. Some things are worth more than money, Mr. Reed. A flicker of something, perhaps recognition, perhaps discomfort, crossed Harrison's face before his usual mask returned. An admirable sentiment, though not one I encounter often in my circles. He gestured toward the main house. My assistant will provide you with a schedule for tomorrow's session. Good day, Ms. Morgan. As Lily returned Tempest to his stall, she reflected on the exchange. For a brief moment, she had glimpsed something beneath Reed's calculated exterior. A question, a doubt, perhaps even a grudging respect. Later that evening, back at the motel, Lily received an email from Martha at Horizon Ranch. Attached was a video file sent by the Spanish journalist investigating Tempest's former owner. Lily and Emma watched in horrified silence as the grainy footage showed Tempest, identifiable by his distinctive white star marking, being subjected to cruel training methods, electric prods, whips, and stress-inducing practices designed to create the spirited behavior prized in certain competitions. This is beyond anything I imagined, Emma whispered, her face pale. No wonder he was so traumatized. Lily closed the laptop, unable to watch anymore. We need to make sure Reed sees this. He needs to understand what Tempest has been through. Will it matter to him? Emma asked skeptically. He only cares about his public image, not the horse's welfare. I have to believe there's some basic decency in him, Lily replied. And if I'm wrong, we have our backup plan with his sponsors. As she prepared for bed, Lily's phone chimed with a text message from an unknown number. Opening it, she was surprised to see a message from Marcus, Reed's assistant. Mr. Reed has scheduled private observers for tomorrow's session. Professional skeptics. Be prepared. Lily stared at the cryptic warning, recognizing it for what it was, an act of conscience from someone inside Reed's camp. She sent a simple "thank you" in reply, then turned off her phone. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but today had been a victory. Tempest was remembering how to trust, and somewhere beneath his polished exterior, perhaps Harrison Reed was remembering something too. The value of things that couldn't be bought or sold. By the third day of training, news of Lily's progress with Tempest had spread far beyond the local community. National media outlets had picked up the story, framing it as a classic David versus Goliath tale, the humble horse trainer challenging the arrogant billionaire. Hashtags like "Inchauer Team Lily" and "Schauer Free Tempest" were trending on social media, putting Harrison Reed in an increasingly uncomfortable position. True to Marcus's warning, Reed had arranged for a panel of professional horse trainers to observe and critique Lily's methods. They sat in a row of chairs near the paddock, clipboards in hand, their expressions ranging from skeptical to openly hostile. "Don't let them rattle you," Emma advised as Lily prepared for the morning session. "They're here to find fault, not to learn." Lily nodded, focusing on her preparations. "Tempest will know if I'm anxious. I need to stay centered for him." When she entered the stable to retrieve Tempest, she found Ramirez looking troubled. "Something happened last night," he said in a low voice. "Someone entered the stables after hours." Lily's heart jumped. Was Tempest hurt? No, Ramirez assured her quickly. But his stall door was left unlatched. If he had pushed against it. He didn't need to finish the thought. An escaped Tempest could have injured himself or others, and it would have been blamed on Lily's inadequate training. "Security cameras?" Lily asked, her voice tight. Ramirez shook his head. "Conveniently malfunctioning in this section of the stables last night. Mr. Reed has ordered an investigation, but..." His expression said what his words didn't. He suspected the sabotage had Reed's tacit approval. Lily took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Thank you for telling me. I'll be extra careful today." When she approached Tempest's stall, the stallion greeted her with a soft nicker that sent a wave of relief through her. Whatever had happened overnight, he was still trusting, still making progress. As they entered the paddock for the morning session, Lily was acutely aware of the skeptical observers, their pens poised to record any misstep. Harrison Reed sat apart, as usual, his face expressionless as he watched her begin her work with Tempest. Today's focus was on desensitization, teaching Tempest to remain calm in the face of potential triggers. Lily had brought various props, fluttering flags, rattling plastic bags, even a small tarp that made crinkly noises when walked upon. For a horse with Tempest's traumatic background, these ordinary objects could provoke panic. She began slowly, introducing each item one at a time, allowing Tempest to investigate at his own pace. When he showed signs of anxiety, ears flattened, nostrils flared, she immediately backed off, waiting until he relaxed before approaching again. "This is painfully slow," one of the professional observers commented loudly to his colleague. "At this rate, it'll take months, not a week." "That's how you get lasting results," Emma called from her position by the fence. "Quick fixes don't heal trauma." Lily ignored the exchange, maintaining her focus on Tempest. By mid-morning, the stallion was calmly walking over the tarp, barely flinching when she waved flags around his head, and standing still while she rustled plastic bags near his legs. The skeptical observers had grown quieter, their note-taking more thoughtful than dismissive. Even Harrison Reed seemed to be watching with increased interest, leaning forward slightly in his chair. During the lunch break, Jackson Wyatt, the rodeo champion who had failed in his attempt to ride Tempest during the original challenge, approached Lily as she was refilling her water bottle. "I still think you're using tricks," he said without preamble. "But I'll admit you've got away with that horse." Coming from Wyatt, this was practically effusive praise. Lily offered a small smile. "It's not tricks, Mr. Wyatt. It's patience and respect." "Whatever it is," he replied with a shrug. "Reed's not happy about it. Word is, he's looking for any excuse to disqualify you." Lily's smile faded. "Thanks for the warning." Wyatt nodded curtly and walked away, leaving Lily to ponder this unexpected alliance. Perhaps not everyone in Reed's camp was as firmly against her as she had thought. The afternoon session focused on riding work. Lily had Tempest performing increasingly complex maneuvers under saddle, circles, figure eights, transitions between gaits. The stallion responded to her lightest touch, his movements fluid and willing. Near the end of the session, as Lily was guiding Tempest through a particularly intricate pattern of turns, a loud bang rang out from behind the stable. Tempest startled, rearing up in sudden fear. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed he might throw Lily and bolt, undoing days of progress. But Lily stayed with him, her voice steady, her hands gentle on the reins. "Easy, boy. You're okay. I'm here." Tempest came back down, trembling but controlled. Lily patted his neck, praising him lavishly for his trust. From the corner of her eye, she saw one of Reed's security guards hurrying away from the area where the noise had originated. The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. Harrison Reed stood abruptly. "I think that's enough for today," he announced, his voice tight. "Ms. Morgan, please return the horse to his stall." As Lily dismounted and led Tempest away, Emma fell into step beside her. "That was deliberate," she said in a low voice. "Someone trying to prove Tempest is still dangerous." "I know," Lily replied quietly. "But it backfired. Did you see how quickly he recovered? That wouldn't have happened 3 days ago." In the stables, Ramirez was waiting, his face dark with anger. "I saw what happened," he said. "That guard had no business near the back storage area where we keep the equipment." "Can you keep an extra eye on Tempest tonight?" Lily asked. "I'm worried they might try something else." Ramirez nodded. "I'll sleep in the tack room. No one will get near him without my knowing." After settling Tempest for the night, Lily found Marcus hovering near the stable entrance, his expression troubled. "Mr. Reed would like to see you in his study," he said formally, though his eyes conveyed an unspoken warning. Lily exchanged glances with Emma. "I'll be fine," she assured her friend. "Wait for me in the car." In Reed's study, the atmosphere was tense. Harrison stood by the window, a glass of amber liquid in his hand, his back to the door when Lily entered. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Reed?" He turned, his face composed but his eyes cold. "You're making remarkable progress with Tempest." "Thank you," Lily replied cautiously, sensing the statement wasn't meant as a compliment. "Perhaps too remarkable." He set his glass down on the desk with deliberate precision. "It makes me wonder if there's more to your methods than meets the eye." Lily kept her expression neutral. "My methods are transparent. Anyone is welcome to observe." "And yet," Harrison continued as if she hadn't spoken, "a horse that threw 20 professional riders in a single day now follows you around like a puppy after just 3 days of gentle handling." His tone made it clear he found this suspicious. "Tempest was never untamable," Lily replied steadily. "He was traumatized. There's a difference." Harrison's eyes narrowed. "Are you suggesting I was misled when I purchased him?" This was dangerous territory, but Lily decided honesty was her best approach. "I think you bought exactly what you wanted. A horse with a fearsome reputation that would make your challenge seem impossible. Whether you knew the details of how he got that way is another question." For a moment, Harrison seemed taken aback by her directness. Then his expression hardened. "Be careful, Ms. Morgan. Your week isn't over yet. A lot can happen in 4 days." "Is that a threat?" "An observation," he replied smoothly. "The terms of our agreement state that I alone determine whether Tempest meets the standard of fully tamed at the end of the week. I wouldn't get too confident if I were you." Lily met his gaze without flinching. "Mr. Reed, regardless of what you decide, the truth about Tempest will come out. I've documented every step of his progress. The world can see he's not the monster you've portrayed him to be. Something flickered in Harrison's eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps, or the first inkling that he might not be in complete control of this situation. "We'll see, Ms. Morgan. We'll see." As Lily left the study, she felt a mixture of determination and apprehension. Reed was clearly looking for ways to ensure she failed, but she had made too much progress with Tempest to back down now. In the car, Emma was waiting anxiously. "What happened?" "Reed is worried," Lily replied, buckling her seatbelt. "He's realizing that his untamable horse is being tamed in front of the whole world, and he doesn't like it." "Did he threaten you?" "Not directly, but I think it's time for our backup plan. Can you contact Safe Haven Insurance with what we've found about Tempest's past?" Emma nodded. "First thing tomorrow. But we need to be careful. Reed has powerful friends." "So do we," Lily said, thinking of the growing public support for their cause. "And unlike Reed's friends, ours actually care about what happens to Tempest." That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the day's events in her mind, particularly the moment when Tempest had startled at the loud noise but trusted her enough to calm down quickly. It was a breakthrough, proof that their bond was growing stronger. Her phone buzzed with an incoming text. It was from Martha at Horizon Ranch. "Spanish authorities have officially charged Tempest's former owner with animal cruelty. Story breaks tomorrow. Be prepared." Lily showed the message to Emma, who had been working on her laptop at the small desk in their motel room. "This changes everything," Emma said, her eyes wide. "Once this news breaks, Reed can't pretend he doesn't know about Tempest's background." "It also means we have leverage," Lily agreed. "If Reed tries to claim I haven't tamed Tempest by the end of the week, we can make it clear that returning the horse to traumatizing training methods would constitute knowing participation in animal cruelty." Emma closed her laptop, a determined expression on her face. "Reed thinks this is about winning or losing a challenge. He doesn't understand that for you. It's about saving Tempest." "Maybe not," Lily said softly. "But I think he's starting to realize that his perfect publicity stunt has turned into something he can't control." Outside, a gentle rain began to fall, pattering against the motel window. Lily thought of Tempest in his stable, with Ramirez keeping watch nearby. 4 more days until the final demonstration. 4 days to prove that even the deepest wounds could heal with patience and kindness. 4 days to change Harrison Reed's mind, or force his hand. The news broke at dawn on the 4th day. Headlines across the country announced the charges against Tempest's former owner in Spain, with detailed descriptions of the abusive training methods that had been used on the stallion. The story spread like wildfire, with social media erupting in outrage, not just at the original abusers, but at Harrison Reed for using a traumatized animal as entertainment. By the time Lily arrived at the Reed estate, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. The number of protesters at the entrance had tripled overnight, their signs now directly accusing Reed of animal cruelty. Security guards stood at rigid attention, their faces tense as they checked IDs with unusual thoroughness. Inside the grounds, staff members moved with nervous energy, exchanging whispers when they thought no one was looking. The camera crew that had been documenting Lily's training sessions had grown, with additional photographers positioned to capture every angle. "Reed's in damage control mode," Emma observed as they walked toward the stables. "His PR team must be having a meltdown." Lily nodded, her focus already shifting to the day ahead. "I just hope Tempest is okay, if all this commotion has upset him." Her concerns were justified. When they reached the stables, Ramirez met them with a worried expression. "Tempest has been agitated since early morning," he reported. "There have been too many strangers coming and going, reporters trying to get pictures, Reed's security doing extra patrols." Lily hurried to Tempest's stall. The stallion was pacing, his ears pinned back, nostrils flaring, a reversion to his earlier anxious behavior. When he saw Lily, he stopped momentarily, then resumed his nervous movement. "It's okay, boy," she said softly. "I know it's been chaotic, but I'm here now." She opened the stall door slowly, aware that Tempest's stressed state made him potentially dangerous again. For a moment, he backed away, snorting in alarm. Lily remained still, simply existing in his space without making demands. Gradually, the stallion's breathing slowed, and he took a tentative step toward her. "That's it," she encouraged. "Remember who I am. Remember that you can trust me." By the time she clipped the lead rope to his halter, Tempest had calmed considerably, though he remained more alert and reactive than he had been the previous day. Lily led him out of the stables, conscious of the many eyes watching their progress. Harrison Reed was waiting by the paddock, surrounded by a group of men and women in business attire. His legal and public relations teams, Lily surmised. His face was composed, but the tightness around his eyes betrayed his stress. "Ms. Morgan," he greeted her with forced cordiality. "I trust you're ready to continue the training?" "I am," Lily replied, though Tempest is understandably unsettled by all the unusual activity this morning. Reed's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, well, it seems your friends in Spain have created quite a stir." "They're not my friends," Lily corrected him. "They're animal welfare advocates who documented abuse. The same abuse that made Tempest untamable in the first place." A muscle twitched in Reed's jaw. "Let's be clear, Ms. Morgan. I purchased Tempest based on his reputation as a spirited competition horse. I had no knowledge of any mistreatment." "And now that you do?" Lily challenged. Before Reed could answer, a sleek black car pulled up nearby, and a woman stepped out, tall, elegant, in her 50s, with a bearing that commanded attention. Reed's expression shifted subtly as he turned to greet her. "Miss Harrington, I wasn't expecting you personally." The woman approached, extending a manicured hand. "Harrison, when the CEO of Safe Haven Insurance hears that our most visible corporate partner is linked to animal cruelty allegations, I tend to take a personal interest." Lily recognized the name immediately. Diana Harrington, CEO of Reed's biggest sponsor, the company Emma had identified as potentially applying pressure. Emma caught Lily's eye from the sidelines and gave a barely perceptible nod. Their backup plan was in motion. "There's been a misunderstanding," Reed said smoothly. "I'm as disturbed by these allegations as anyone. In fact, I've invited Ms. Morgan here to rehabilitate Tempest precisely because I care about his welfare." Diana Harrington raised a perfectly arched eyebrow. "Really? Because the documentation I've seen suggests you purchased him specifically to create an impossible challenge for publicity purposes, knowing his traumatic background made him dangerous." "That's not," Reed began, but Harrington cut him off with a gesture. "Let's not play games, Harrison. Safe Haven's brand is built on ethical business practices. We can't afford association with animal exploitation, however indirect." She glanced toward Lily and Tempest. "I'd like to observe today's training session, if that's acceptable to all parties." Reed looked as though he wanted to object, but thought better of it. Of course. Ms. Morgan was just about to begin. Throughout this exchange, Lily had been quietly working with Tempest, using gentle touches and soft words to help him adjust to the tense atmosphere. Now, with all eyes on her, she led him into the paddock and removed the lead rope, giving him freedom to move within the enclosed space. Despite the morning's disruptions, Tempest stayed near her, seeking the comfort of her familiar presence. Lily began with simple groundwork exercises to rebuild his confidence, then gradually moved to more complex tasks. By mid-morning, he was responding beautifully again, the earlier anxiety receding as he focused on their work together. Diana Harrington watched with evident interest, occasionally making notes on her phone. When Lily finally mounted Tempest and guided him through a series of precise movements, the CEO nodded approvingly. During the lunch break, Harrington approached Lily as she was removing Tempest's saddle. "Impressive work," she said without preamble. "You clearly have a special connection with this animal." "Thank you," Lily replied, continuing her care of Tempest. "He's a remarkable horse who deserved better than what happened to him." "I agree." Harrington's gaze shifted to where Reed stood with his team, their discussion appearing heated despite their lowered voices. which is why I've just informed Harrison that Safe Haven is prepared to withdraw its sponsorship unless he commits to a more ethical approach to this situation. Lily's hand stilled on Tempest's neck. What did he say? He's considering his options, Harrington replied with a small smile. But I think you'll find him more amenable to compromise than before. True to Harrington's prediction, when Reed approached Lily later that afternoon, his demeanor had changed noticeably. Gone was the cold arrogance, replaced by a carefully neutral expression. Ms. Morgan, he began formally. In light of recent developments, I'd like to revisit our agreement regarding Tempest. Lily continued grooming the stallion, her movements steady and methodical. I'm listening. I'm prepared to sell Tempest to you at the end of the week, regardless of the final demonstration results, Reed said. For the $1 million as you proposed. Consider it my contribution to animal welfare. Lily paused, brush in hand, and looked directly at him. Why the change of heart? Reed's smile was tight. Let's call it a business decision. My PR team advises that this is the most prudent course of action. And if I hadn't made progress with Tempest, if the news hadn't broken about his past, would you still be making this business decision? For a moment, something like genuine emotion flashed across Reed's face. Perhaps shame, perhaps regret. We'll never know, will we? He replied. Do we have an agreement? Lily resumed brushing Tempest's coat. Yes, Mr. Reed, we have an agreement. As Reed walked away, Emma approached, her face alight with triumph. Did I just hear what I think I heard? He's giving in? Apparently, Lily said, her voice measured, though he's framing it as a business decision rather than admitting he was wrong. Classic Reed, Emma snorted. But who cares? You're going to get Tempest. That's what matters. Lily nodded, but her expression remained thoughtful. It is. But I'd hoped for something more. Some recognition that this was never about winning or losing a challenge. It was about doing right by an animal who had been wronged. Maybe that's too much to expect from someone like Harrison Reed, Emma suggested. Maybe, Lily agreed, but I still have 3 days left. And the final demonstration. The rest of the day's training proceeded smoothly, with Tempest continuing to show remarkable progress. By the end of the session, he was performing complex maneuvers under saddle that would have seemed impossible just 4 days earlier. The small crowd of observers, including Diana Harrington, who had stayed for the entire day, applauded spontaneously when Lily finished with a series of perfect figure eights at a canter. As Lily dismounted, she caught sight of Reed watching from a distance, his expression unreadable. For a brief moment their eyes met, and Lily thought she glimpsed something beyond the calculated facade. A question, perhaps, or a dawning realization. That evening, as they returned to the motel, Emma could barely contain her excitement. We did it! Reed caved. Safe Haven put on the pressure, and Tempest is going to be yours. She paused, noticing Lily's subdued demeanor. Why aren't you more thrilled? This is everything we wanted. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, untying her boots. It is. I'm grateful, beyond grateful, that Tempest will be safe. But what? I keep thinking about what Reed said, that it was a business decision, as if Tempest's welfare was just another transaction, another calculation of profit and loss. Emma sat beside her. That's who Reed is. He sees everything in terms of gain and advantage. I know, Lily said softly. But I can't help feeling there's something more there. Something he's not allowing himself to acknowledge. Like what? Lily thought back to the moment their eyes had met across the paddock, the flicker of something she had seen in his gaze. Like maybe, deep down, he recognizes that there are things in this world that can't be bought or controlled, things that matter more than money or power. Emma looked skeptical. That's a lot to attribute to a man who was ready to let a traumatized horse be further abused for the sake of publicity. Perhaps, Lily conceded. But people can change, Emma. Sometimes they just need to be shown a different way. Later that night, As she lay in bed reviewing her plans for the next day's training, Lily's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Marcus. "Mr. Reed has been in his study for hours, watching videos of your sessions with Tempest. He's requested all footage from the beginning. Thought you should know." Lily stared at the message for a long time, wondering what it meant. Was Reed looking for ammunition against her? Or was he genuinely trying to understand what she had accomplished with Tempest? 3 days remained until the final demonstration. 3 days to complete Tempest's transformation from a fearful, defensive animal to a trusting partner. 3 days to maybe, just maybe, transform something in Harrison Reed as well. The morning of the final demonstration dawned clear and perfect, as if nature itself approved of what was to come. In the week since Lily had first approached Tempest in that dusty arena, autumn had deepened, painting the trees surrounding the Reed estate in vibrant golds and reds. The crowd that gathered was larger than for any previous session. Journalists from major networks, equestrian experts, curious locals, and a substantial contingent from animal welfare organizations. A special seating area had been arranged for VIPs, including Diana Harrington and executives from several of Reed's corporate partnerships. The protests that had dominated the entrance in previous days had transformed into something more celebratory. Signs that once condemned Reed now praised Lily and championed Tempest's journey from abuse to rehabilitation. In the stables, Lily prepared Tempest with the same quiet care she had shown from the beginning. The stallion stood calmly as she brushed his gleaming coat, his eyes soft and attentive. Occasionally, he would nudge her gently with his muzzle, seeking the treats he knew she carried in her pockets. "Today's the day, boy," she murmured, stroking his powerful neck. "Today we show everyone what you can do." Emma entered the stable, her face alight with excitement. "You should see the crowd out there. Half the county must have shown up." "And Reed?" Lily asked, adjusting Tempest's halter. "In his element, playing the gracious host." Emma rolled her eyes. "Though I have to admit, he seems different. Less smug, somehow." Ramirez appeared at the stable entrance, his weathered face creased in a rare smile. "It's time, señorita. The judges are ready." As agreed, the final demonstration would be evaluated by a panel of 3 equestrian experts, one chosen by Reed, one by Lily, and one selected jointly. They sat at a small table near the arena, clipboards ready, their expressions professionally neutral. Harrison Reed stood to welcome the crowd, his voice amplified by a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this special event. Today marks the culmination of an extraordinary week of training by Ms. Lily Morgan." His tone was polite but reserved, giving away nothing of his personal feelings about the proceedings. "As you may know, the original challenge offered my entire fortune to anyone who could tame the untamable Tempest. While Ms. Morgan and I have since reached a private agreement regarding his purchase, today's demonstration will serve as the final assessment of her training methods." A murmur ran through the crowd at these words. Many had expected Reed to acknowledge the revelations about Tempest's abusive background, perhaps even to apologize for his role in the spectacle. His careful sidestepping of these issues did not go unnoticed. "Without further ado," Reed continued, "please welcome Ms. Lily Morgan and Tempest." Lily led Tempest into the arena to enthusiastic applause. The stallion's ears flicked at the noise, but he remained steady beside her, his step confident, his head held high. For the next hour, Lily demonstrated everything she had accomplished with Tempest over the past week. She began with groundwork, showing how the horse would follow her without restraint, responding to the subtlest cues of her body language. She introduced various potential stressors, flapping tarps, rattling objects, sudden movements, all of which Tempest now accepted with calm assurance. When she moved to mounted work, the transformation became even more apparent. Tempest moved beneath her with fluid grace, executing complex patterns and transitions between gaits with barely perceptible aids. Gone was the terrified, defensive animal of a week ago, replaced by a willing partner who clearly trusted his rider. For the finale, Lily had planned something special. She dismounted and removed not only the saddle, but also Tempest's halter, leaving him completely free. Then, standing in the center of the arena, she began to sing softly, the same wordless melody she had used that first day to calm him. Tempest, who had been standing a few feet away, pricked his ears forward. Then, to the astonishment of the crowd, he walked directly to Lily and lowered his proud head to rest his forehead against her chest, as if embracing her. A collective gasp rose from the spectators, followed by applause that swelled into a standing ovation. Even the judges were visibly moved, one of them wiping away a tear as she made notes on her clipboard. Lily led Tempest back to the center of the arena and turned to face the judges' table. "Ladies and gentlemen of the panel," she said, her voice clear and confident, "I present to you Tempest, not an untamable monster, but a sensitive, intelligent being who has learned to trust again." The head judge, a silver-haired woman with decades of equestrian experience, stood to address the crowd. "On behalf of the panel, I can state unequivocally that we have witnessed an extraordinary achievement in horsemanship today. Ms. Morgan has not only demonstrated her ability to ride, direct, and control Tempest, the criteria specified in the original challenge, but has done so with a level of understanding and compassion that sets a new standard for ethical training." The crowd erupted in cheers again. Lily bent to pick up Tempest's halter from where she had left it on the ground, intending to lead him back to the stables. "One moment, Ms. Morgan." Harrison Reed's voice cut through the noise, amplified by the microphone he still held. The crowd fell silent as he walked slowly into the arena, stopping a respectful distance from Lily and Tempest. "The judge's verdict is clear," he said, his voice carrying across the hushed gathering. "By any measure, you have succeeded in taming Tempest. According to the original terms of my challenge, that would entitle you to my entire fortune." Attention rippled through the audience. Everyone knew about the private agreement Lily and Reed had reached, but no one had expected him to reference the original stakes so directly. "However," Reed continued, "as you've pointed out repeatedly throughout this process, this was never about the money for you." Lily met his gaze steadily, one hand resting on Tempest's neck. "No, Mr. Reed, it wasn't." Reed nodded, something shifting in his expression. "I've spent my life believing that everything and everyone has a price, that with enough money and power, anything can be controlled or acquired." He glanced at Tempest, then back to Lily. "You've proven me wrong." A stunned silence fell over the arena. No one had expected this admission from the notoriously proud billionaire. "What I witnessed this week wasn't just horse training," Reed continued. "It was a lesson in patience, in understanding, in recognizing the value of things that can't be bought." He paused, seeming to choose his next words carefully. "I've been humbled by what you've accomplished, Ms. Morgan." Lily remained silent, her expression a mixture of surprise and cautious hope. Reed turned to address the crowd again. "Our agreement stands. Tempest will go to Ms. Morgan for the price of $1 million, but I'd like to add something to our arrangement, if she'll accept." He faced Lily again. "The $1 million I originally awarded you for riding Tempest, I'd like to donate it to Horizon Ranch to support their work rehabilitating abused horses. And I'd like to establish an annual grant in Tempest's name to fund research and education on ethical training methods." Gasps and murmurs spread through the audience. Emma, standing at the edge of the arena, looked as though she might faint from shock. "Furthermore," Reed continued, his voice growing stronger, "I'm announcing today that I'm withdrawing from all investments and partnerships related to competitive horse events that don't adhere to the highest standards of animal welfare. My legal team will be drafting new guidelines effective immediately." Diana Harrington rose from her seat in the VIP section, leading a round of applause that quickly spread throughout the crowd. Journalists frantically typed on their phones, capturing what was surely the most unexpected corporate responsibility pivot of the year. Lily, still processing Reed's words, finally spoke. "Thank you, Mr. Reed. Tempest and I accept your offer." Reed nodded, then did something no one expected. He extended his hand slowly toward Tempest. The stallion, who a week ago would have recoiled in terror from such an approach, merely turned his head curiously. After a moment's consideration, he stretched his neck forward and gently sniffed Reed's fingers. "He's giving you a chance," Lily said softly. "That's more than most of us do." Reed withdrew his hand carefully, a complexity of emotions crossing his face. "He's a better teacher than I deserve," he replied, just loudly enough for Lily to hear. As they stood there, the billionaire, the horse trainer, and the stallion that had brought them together, camera flashes captured the moment for tomorrow's headlines. But the real story, Lily knew, couldn't be conveyed in photographs or sound bites. It was written in Tempest's now trusting eyes, in the subtle shift of Reed's worldview, and in the quiet triumph of compassion over control. Later that evening, as Lily prepared to trailer Tempest to his new home at Horizon Ranch, Harrison Reed made one final appearance at the stables. He had changed from his formal attire to more casual clothes, and without his entourage, he seemed somehow more human. "I wanted to say goodbye," he said simply, "and to thank you properly, away from the cameras and the crowd." Lily paused in her preparations. "For what?" "For showing me something I needed to see." Reed's gaze drifted to Tempest, who was calmly eating hay in the trailer. "That some things can't be bought or bullied into submission. That true connection comes from respect, not dominance." Lily smiled. "Those are expensive lessons for a man who measures everything in dollars." "The most valuable ones usually are," Reed admitted. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, offering it to her. "If you ever need anything, for Tempest, for Horizon Ranch, for yourself, call me directly. No assistance, no PR team." Lily accepted the card with a nod. "I'll hold you to those grants you promised. I expect nothing less." Reed turned to leave, then paused. "Ms. Morgan, Lily, what you did with Tempest, it wasn't just about saving one horse, was it?" "No," she replied softly. "It was about showing that even the deepest wounds can heal with patience and kindness. It was about proving that transformation is possible, for anyone." Reed held her gaze for a long moment, as if seeing her truly for the first time. Then, with a small nod of acknowledgement, he walked away into the gathering darkness. As Lily watched him go, she felt Tempest's warm breath on her shoulder. She turned to stroke his velvety muzzle, marveling at how far they had come together. "Ready to go home, boy?" she whispered. Tempest nickered softly in response, his eyes reflecting the stars that had begun to appear in the evening sky. Stars that shone equally over mansions and rescue ranches, over the powerful and the humble, over all those with the courage to change.